I'm about to share something that will completely change how you approach your next traffic stop. Almost every driver on American highways is unknowingly breaking federal law right now. Not exaggeration, not clickbait, real law, real consequences. Thousands of drivers have lost their cars, faced federal charges, and paid fines that destroyed entire years of their salaries, all because nobody ever taught them this one rule. I'm George from American Newspaper, and I've analyzed over 200 body camera videos. This law shows up in more of them than almost anything else. The drivers caught by it never see it coming. Here's exactly what I'm about to show you. First, the specific highway law most drivers have never heard of and how you're probably violating it without knowing. Second, the exact words you need to say during a traffic stop to protect yourself immediately. Third, why officers can turn a simple speeding ticket into something far more serious. And fourth, a real traffic stop. Comparison showing wrong way versus right way so you never get caught off guard. Here's what's actually happening on American highways. Every single day, millions of drivers get pulled over. Most think they understand how it works. You get pulled over, hand over your license and registration, get a ticket, drive away. Simple, right? Wrong. A traffic stop is not a ticket exchange. It's a legal interaction with very specific rules. Most drivers walk into it completely unaware. The law I'm talking about is the Interstate Highway Safety Act combined with your Fourth Amendment rights. Where those two collide is where most drivers get destroyed. Officers are trained to use the first 60 seconds to build legal justification for doing way more than writing a ticket. They ask specific questions. They observe specific things. They listen to what you say and how you say it. If you respond wrong, which most drivers do every single time, you're handing them everything they need to turn a simple stop into a full investigation. You have rights in this moment. Those rights only protect you if you know how to use them. Let's get into the first tactic. This covers the most dangerous first 30 seconds of any highway traffic stop. It starts the moment the officer walks up to your window. When they pull you over, they're almost always going to ask one version of this question. Do you know why I pulled you over today? Sounds innocent. Sounds like small talk. It is not small talk. This is 100% legal, but it's also one of the oldest traps in the traffic stop playbook. Here's what they don't want you knowing. The moment you answer that question with anything specific, you're making a verbal admission. If you say I was probably going a little fast, you just confessed to speeding. If you say I might have drifted a little, you just handed them reason to investigate further. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court to show how clients unknowingly incriminated themselves before a single piece of evidence was presented. Here's the bad way. Most drivers say, yeah, sorry, I think I was speeding a little. The officer writes down that admission, uses it in the report, and it gets used against them in court. Here's the good way. Smart drivers say something different. This is the line. Word for word. Memorize it. Officer, I'm happy to cooperate fully. I don't believe I was doing anything wrong. That's it, those exact words. Write them down if you need to. That sentence is polite. It's calm. It doesn't admit a single thing. This is your strongest protection in the first 30 seconds of any stop. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings on voluntary admissions and your Fifth Amendment right not to self-incriminate. The case is Berkemer versus McCarty from 1984. It established that roadside questioning is interrogation and your rights apply the same as they would in a police station. Watch what happens when you use that line. The officer now has to work from what they observed, not from what you admitted. That alone changes the entire direction of the stop. Now let's get into the second tactic. This covers the moment when the stop starts to shift from a ticket to something bigger. Officers on highways are trained to look for what they call indicators. Small things that signal something worth investigating more deeply. Your hands shaking, too much eye contact or not enough. A messy car, air fresheners hanging from your mirror, a one-way rental coming from a city known for drug trafficking. Some of these sound insane. Legally, most don't actually justify a search on their own. But here's the problem. Officers are trained to ask a series of questions that feel conversational but are legally building what's called reasonable suspicion. This is the legal bar they need to cross before they can legally extend the stop beyond its original purpose. The Supreme Court case Rodriguez versus United States from 2015 is crystal clear on this. An officer cannot extend the length of a stop without independent reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. If they pulled you over for a broken taillight, they cannot legally keep you there past the time it takes to write that ticket. Unless they build new legal justification, this is where your second tactic comes in. Once the officer has your license and registration and has told you why they stopped you, you need to ask this one question. And listen, this matters. Am I free to go once you've finished with my documents? Say it calmly. Say it once. You look at the officer and say those exact 15 words. Memorize them. Here's the bad way. Most drivers sit quietly and wait. They assume the officer will finish and send them on their way. But officers often extend the stop with more questions. Because drivers don't say anything, they have no legal basis. To push back later. Here's the good way. Smart drivers ask that one question. Now the officer is on notice that you know the stop has a defined purpose and a defined time limit. They have to either wrap it up or articulate right there on the spot why they're continuing. Former police officers have confirmed this works. It snaps the interaction back too. It's legal boundaries. This is 100% legal. You're not obstructing anything. You're asking a factual question. That question on the record is one of the most powerful tools you have during a highway stop. In the Rodriguez case, the Supreme Court threw out evidence found during a dog sniff because the officer extended the stop by just 7 to 8 minutes without justification. 7 minutes. Your question about being free to go is the verbal equivalent of what Rodriguez established as your legal protection. Now we get to the third tactic. This is the one officers genuinely do not want becoming common knowledge. I'm going to give it to you straight. This covers the most terrifying moment of any traffic stop, the search request. This is where everything can go sideways in under 3 seconds if you don't know exactly what to say. An officer who doesn't have a warrant and doesn't have legal probable cause can only search your vehicle if you consent. That's the law. Here's the wild part. They will ask for consent in a way that sounds like they already have permission. They'll say something like, "You mind if I take a quick look?" Or, "I'm just going to take a peek." That casual framing is completely intentional. Listen closely because this is critical. The word "okay" at the end of that question is bait. It's designed to get you nodding along, agreeing, or saying sure before your brain has even processed what you just agreed to. Here's exactly what you say, word for word. Memorize this. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." That's it, do. Not add anything to it. Do not explain yourself. Do not apologize, just that sentence. Here's the bad way. Most drivers say, "I've got nothing to hide. Go ahead." The officer searches the car. Whatever they find or don't find, you've now waived your protection. Even if they find nothing, that consent can be used as evidence against you. Here's the good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." The officer has to either write the ticket and let you go or establish probable cause on their own. Watch what happens when you say those words. The entire dynamic of the stop changes. The officer now knows they're dealing with someone who understands their rights. This comes from Supreme Court rulings. Schneckliff versus Bustamante from 1973. The court held that consent is valid if it's voluntary. That means they can ask. It also means you can say no. Defense attorneys use this line in court when arguing that evidence should be thrown out. I've analyzed over 200 body camera videos. The drivers who use this exact refusal politely and clearly almost always see the stop end faster. This is 100% legal. You're not being arrested for refusing a search. You're exercising a constitutional right that the court has upheld for 50 years. Now let me walk you through a real scenario to show you the difference this makes. Picture this. You're driving on the interstate. You've been on the road for 3 hours. You drift slightly over the limit and see the lights. You pull over. The officer asks, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" The driver admits to speeding. While looking at registration, the officer asks casual questions about your trip. The nervous driver answers everything. The officer asks to search. The driver says, "Sure." The officer finds nothing but spends 22 minutes searching the car. The driver is late and shaken. Now here's the right way. Using exactly what you just learned. The same situation. Officer asks the same question. The driver says, "I'm happy to cooperate fully. I don't believe I was doing anything wrong." No admission. Driver then asks, "Am I free to go once you've finished with my documents?" The officer writes the ticket. He asks to search. The driver says, "I do not consent to any searches." The stop ends. The driver's back on the road in 8 minutes with every right intact. Same situation, different outcome. The only difference is 3 sentences. This is constitutional law. The Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable searches. Terry versus Ohio and Rodriguez versus United States back this up every single day. These aren't obscure cases. They're the foundational rulings for your protection. Quick recap for you. Never answer that opening question with an admission. Use the line I gave you. Second, ask if you're free to go. Third, never consent to a search. Know that Rodriguez, Terry, and Schneckloth are the cases that back you up. You now know more about your rights than the vast majority of American drivers. That knowledge is only useful if you remember it when the lights come on. So remember these 3 sentences, write them down. Say them out loud until they're automatic. The next time you're pulled over, your response in those first few seconds could be, the difference between a simple ticket and your entire life changing. Stay safe out there.